4 o'clock on your Thursday afternoon, and we continue to break in with news coverage of the wildfires burning around Colorado. And we're about to get an update from just to the west of Loveland on the situation with the Alexander Mountain fire. It looks like the briefing may have begun. If it has, let's go there live and listen in.
The Alexander Mountain fire at 0600 this morning. We did transfer command from the local unit at that time. Currently, the fire size is 8,089 acres. It's still active on most sides. Still at 0% containment. Today our main focus has been structure protection, point source protection. However, we are making some progress on line containment, perimeter containment. Jason Coyle with operations will give you more details on the operations and fire suppression. Currently there's 260 fire personnel on the incident. We do have quite a few more personnel on order. Most of those orders are being unable to fill at this time due to other fires in the country. End of report.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Coyle. I am the Operations Section Chief in charge of Strategic Operations for Southwest Area Team 1. I spell Jayson Coil. So I'm going to walk you all around the fire, starting at the southern end and then going to the west and then up to the north and then to the east. So before I do that, just generally speaking, the strategy that we've been implementing today is the same strategy that the local team implemented yesterday with considerable success considering the situation that they're faced with, and in close coordination with the Larimer County Sheriff and a lot of the other cooperating agencies. We've also had, I'd say, a significant amount of success, not complete success today, but it's been all in all a positive day. So on the southern end of the fire along Highway 34, crews have been working along the communities, and there's a fiber optic line that's above ground there that runs adjacent to 34 on the fire side in many areas. And they've been able to protect that. They've also been able to protect the structures along 34. There's still some areas where the fire could roll down and impact Highway 34 and impact that fiber optic line. So we'll continue that patrol 24 hours a day until we ensure that there's no longer any threat to that. Because that fiber optic line is the primary 911 line into Estes Park, and there's limited redundancy, and it also would negatively impact all of their landlines if that was to become damaged. So as you go on to the west side of the fire, the community of Cedar Park, subdivision of Cedar Park, is the area where most of the crew work has been focused today. And so along Cedar Park, there's a previous fuel break that was established on the southern end, just where the road kind of tops out. And they have been able to utilize that to prevent fire from moving further to the west along the southern end of that community. However, along the northern end, fire has come into the community some, and they're looking for ways to connect that westernmost fire's edge together through some open terrain features, avoid the homes, and tie it back down to that fuel treatment on the south. That will reduce the immediate threat to a large number of the homes in Cedar Park, and it will also reduce the potential that the fire will be able to continue to move west towards the Storm Mountain subdivision. Further up on the western side, crews were basically left the majority of the subdivision and went east to the fire's edge. They worked along that fire's edge, and they've made good progress, especially considering the limited number of resources that we have. However, there's a drainage that runs up towards Spruce Mountain that's about halfway across the top of the fire. Fire activity picked up in there this afternoon as soon as the column lifted, as soon as the haze cleared out, and is continuing to move to the north and west up that drainage towards Spruce Mountain. We anticipate that before the end of this operational period that fire will hit the Cameron Peak fire scar, and we do not anticipate that fire to move very far at all into that Cameron Peak scar, which will prevent it from threatening things that are on the opposite side of Cameron Peak. We'll be monitoring that, and we've decided that if the fire moves more than a mile through Cameron Peak, then our estimates were wrong, and then we will make sure that the Sheriff's Office is aware so that they can take the actions necessary for any newly affected or potentially affected areas to the north. Off on the east side in what is Masonville, there's a canal road on the southeast corner that goes down towards 34 that they burned out 2 days ago. So they burned all the fuel between the fire's edge and where the canal road was. That's holding. Yesterday, crews also put in, hotshot crews put in hand line up that fire's edge to the northwest, almost all the way to where the northeastern corner of the fire is. And that is also holding today. They're in there continuing to reinforce that line. There's a little bit of activity on that northeastern corner, and we anticipate that if they're successful with those actions today, we'll be able to literally turn the corner on that northeast side and get it tied back in to the Cameron Peak fire scar. And then after that, on the eastern side, the emphasis will be ensuring that that line holds over the next several days while the fuel consumes, and then that will eliminate the majority of the threats to the communities to the east. So that's kind of the walk around the fire. Thank you.
There was some mitigation work to the east side of Cedar Park. Do you know if that was helpful? You know,
that to the southeast side, yes, there was fuels treatments that were put in there, and tying that fire into the fuels treatment. What it's allowed to do is it's allowed to segregate our work. So if that wasn't there and you have fire below you on a slope, you can't really commit crews up above that slope, because if it gets active, it runs up there and they could get trapped. So having that field break in there is something that the field operations I was just talking about this evening, is utilizing that to work on the southern half and then work on the northern half. We continue to work on the northern half in Cedar Park and get it tied back around.
Can you speak to, as far as the structures, have there been any fire stations damaged or destroyed?
The sheriff's office will report on damage assessments. I don't want to misspeak.
All right, thanks.
good one.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Keaton. Last name is spelled Keeton. I'm a captain with the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. I would like to first start by thanking the people you've already heard from. The Southwest Area Team 1 Incident Management Team came in and we transitioned control of the firefighting efforts to the Incident Management Team this morning at 6 a.m. as he has already reported. And I want to make it clear that we have a wonderful working relationship, and the transition has been very smooth to this point. Everything is going well. We're working very well together. The next thing I'd like to do is thank our community. These things are always difficult and undoubtedly very inconvenient for everybody involved, but especially those who have been evacuated. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being prepared. Unfortunately, we have exposure to this in the last few years, so it's not our first time experiencing this for most of us, but thank you for being willing, being prepared, and acknowledging that we are always going to prioritize life safety over inconvenience. I want to talk a little bit about our evacuations. The evacuations that we have put into place for the last couple of days still remain in place, but I want to emphasize that they are very fluid. Those very well may change in the next few days, and with the team we are constantly managing and assessing what to do with the evacuations, whether to lift them if we strongly believe there's no more threat to life safety, or depending on the fire movement and fire behavior, whether we need to put more in place. We will constantly be in communication about that, and the public will be the first to know when we have concerns, and you'll know when we're going to implement more or less. Either way, we will communicate that out. Now here's the unfortunate news. We have had loss and structures lost in this fire up to this point. Up in the area, and I want to be very specific, in the very immediate area of Palisade Mountain Drive and Snowtop Drive, we have lost approximately 24 structures. I want to emphasize this doesn't necessarily mean 24 homes. These structures are combinations of homes and outbuildings, but our guess at this point from the firefighters that have been in there is approximately 24. I don't have any more specific information on that, but I do want to emphasize that we are going to, with support of firefighters, put damage assessment teams in, hopefully tomorrow morning, if fire behavior allows, and get more specifics on homeowners and exact addresses so that we can start notifying residents of what the circumstances are. I'm going to read this so that you guys, so that I get it right. In the past, we have had a very difficult time identifying proper homeowners who live in the areas when we have had fire damaged structures. So if you think you may have been affected by this, I want you to write this number down and call it. That's area code 970-980-2800. And what I would like you to do is contact that number and give us where you live and your best contact information, so that if you are in fact affected by this, we have the best way possible to get in contact with you, and it's very, very expedient, so we don't have to spend a lot of time looking it up. The three of us will now take questions. I want to preface the fact that there are very well maybe a lot of things that we don't have answers to at this point in time. We're not trying to hide anything. There's just a lot of unknowns yet. You guys want to step up? What questions do we have?
So the question I asked before was whether you know if any fire stations have been disrupted by the fire.
That's a great question. There is a fire station up in that general vicinity. I don't have any specific information on whether that was one of the structures that was damaged. Thank you.
I know you're still trying to assess the damage of the 24 structures, but are we assuming that of the about 24, most of those are homes versus an outbuilding?
I really don't have an assumption on that, and the reason is a lot of the structures up there have more than one outbuilding, so it very well may be one home that had 2 or 3 outbuildings by it accounted for more than simply one. Certainly that's the hope.
One quick follow-up. We talked about certain neighborhoods in the different directions that you were talking about. What are the communities that are most threatened at this point?
I think that what we've been reporting on is Storm Mountain primarily, and the entire area around that is probably the most impacted right now by the actual flame front. Is that accurate? Is that fair?
Yeah, it seems to be, when we speak to people, there's 2 different names. Storm Mountain is sometimes referenced the area to the west, whereas Cedar Park is the one to the east.
So both of those
both
two.
Of those areas.
Both of those combined are the ones that are being primarily impacted. Great question.
How many aircraft do you guys got up right now?
Depends on the day. We've probably had a high of 5 or 6 working at any given one time. Actual aircraft dumping water. That doesn't include the aircraft that are being used to coordinate those efforts. It's been down as low as 2. It's really dependent on what the resources are available, the time of the pilot. We've pulled a couple off to fight the fire down south for a short period of time yesterday, so that fluctuates. It's not as static as one might think.
We're not seeing those aircraft from here. Would it be safe to say they're up in that Cedar Park area, Storm Mountain area?
They are.
Yes, to say there's fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft, so helicopters drop in water, and then the airplanes drop in water that are working in coordination with the crews on the ground on the Cedar Park / Storm King area on the northwest corner of the fire.
Forgive me if you addressed this in the first question, but when you say 24 plus structures, is there a possibility that 2 or 3 of them could be on one property?
I think there's a very strong possibility that's the case, yes.
And are those complete losses, or is it damage and complete loss?
That's really going to depend on the assessment that we're able to do tomorrow. The firefighters that were giving us these rough numbers are really not the ones that will go in there and do a true damage assessment.
And we know that down in Stone Canyon, we had obviously the fatality of somebody in one of the structures that was lost down there. As of right now, do we know of any injury or deaths reported from this fire?
None that I'm aware of.
Can we also talk about the change in containment? Earlier it was 1%, and you all just said 0. I know it's a small change, but...
So we report percent containment as a percentage of line that's controlled relative to the overall percentage, or relative to the overall the size of the fire. So if we're at 1% and the size of the fire increase, which it has, then we'll drop below that number. As we add black to the map that represents areas of the fire that are contained, then say if it's 100 miles around it and we've got 10 miles contained, we'll report 10%. If the fire grows to 200 acres, that number would drop to 5%.
Can anybody confirm that the 1% was at Silverdale basically yesterday?
No, that was prior. We didn't report that number, so I don't want to misspeak on what exactly the 1% was.
What kind of difference have hot shots made when they arrived as opposed to before they arrived in this firefight?
Having crews purpose-built for the terrain that they're operating in, especially in that difficult and complex terrain.
Sorry, sir, could you step towards the mic?
You bet. Having crews that are purpose-built for the terrain that they're operating in, especially that steep and rugged terrain, is a force multiplier. It is a significant advantage. It allows them to work more autonomously, and it also allows us to, for lack of a better term, give them a longer leash. They have the experience and the training and the expertise to let them go out there and take the initiative to make decisions that have a positive outcome because they understand what it is that we're trying to achieve to a greater degree than people with less training and experience.
Could you please repeat and spell your first and last name for us?
It's Jason Coyle, Jayson Coil.
And who you represent, if you say that.
Southwest Area Incident Management Team 1, Operations Section Chief.
Can you talk about the work of firefighters and you keep mentioning...
We've been watching an update being delivered on the Alexander Mountain fire, and the news is important. Just over 8,000 acres large. Still seems like quite a firefight awaits the people who are still trying to get a handle on that one, but also the story of those structures that have been lost.
Yeah, when you're talking about 24, and they can't really tell us how many are homes, as they explained, because some are outbuildings, but they're all in that one area. Palisade Mountain Drive and Snowtop Drive is what we're being told.
Yeah, that is near Palisade Mountain right there. But we got a pretty good idea of how they're trying to go about fighting that fire. We'll continue to follow that, and any more information we get on the Alexander Mountain fire, we will be sharing with you. But we're tracking other fires as well, including the one in southwest Metro Denver, the Quarry Fire in Jefferson County. That one just under 400 acres in size at this point.
And we got an update from Jeffco about 2 hours ago that their resources doubled. They've got 155 firefighters working on that one, which is good news. 9 News anchor Kyle Clark joins us from that area. Kyle, tell us about what you're seeing this hour.
We are seeing a far, far less active fire today than we saw this time yesterday, which is great because we've got similar conditions in terms of the heat and in terms of the bone dry conditions that we had midday yesterday. A slightly smaller aerial attack than what we were seeing on this fire yesterday, but still impressive. Jefferson County was telling us that they had 3 helicopters and 2 fixed-wing aircraft on this fire. We've actually seen a 3rd fixed-wing aircraft come in within the last few minutes. It's one of those super scooper planes that can drop down on Chatfield, skim across the top of the water, pick up about, in the case of the larger one, about 1,600 gallons, come right over the hogback and drop it here on the fire. They're making their stand at Deer Creek Canyon Road, same place that they were yesterday. They don't want it to jump that and come north because then that comes right into the neighborhood where we're standing. We're on the south side of the village neighborhoods, a series of interconnected neighborhoods with hundreds of homes. Hence the concern about why this particular firefight is so important. Not the largest fire, but it is next to a large concentration of homes. My colleague Lawrence Cafidi has been talking to some of the folks who are evacuated from other neighborhoods, not the one that we're standing in, but ones to the south and to the west of here. Lauren?
Kyle, there's been a big crowd of people just watching this fire eat away at hundreds of acres of land. It looks like everybody kind of disappeared once we put our camera up. But yesterday, most of these people were made up of people who, live at further away neighborhoods. Today, I actually talked to people who evacuated. A lot of them told me they just packed up what they could and ran out. Another person told me that they just had time to grab a pair of shorts before they could leave. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office says it's going to be a long battle and they don't know when they can let people near their homes again. I stopped by the evacuation site at Dakota Ridge High School and talked to someone who evacuated from McKinney Ranch. He said he doesn't even know what the rest of the day looks like for him.
The problem right now is waiting. We can't make up a game plan until we know that we're going to go home. So right now it's survival mode.
Taking a live look right across the street from the fire, you can see that helicopter scooping down to get some water to dump on that fire. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office says if you've evacuated, don't be surprised when you get back if you see some patio furniture missing or maybe a big trench kind of dug around your home. That's just them doing some work before the fire gets any closer. Live in Jefferson County, Lawrence Cafidi, 9 News.
Lauren, thank you so much. So that Bell helicopter that's right there next to Lauren is the only one that's small enough to go in on the little reservoir pond that's right up over the ridge right behind the two of us. That thing can do very rapid drops of about 300 gallons per run, and it'll just dance back and forth all afternoon into the evening. The state's Firehawk, which they finally have up and running, is also flying this fire here today. We will be with you for the full 30 minutes tonight on Next with the latest on the Quarry fire, as well as encouraging news on the Stone Canyon fire in Boulder County and the latest on the Alexander Mountain fire up in Larimer County as well. Tom and Kim.
All right, Kyle, thanks very much. Of course, we'll have much more coming up on 9 News at 5 o'clock as well. We're going to talk about the 4 fires that we're following across the state. The farthest to the north, the one we got the update on just a few minutes ago, the Alexander Mountain fire. And then you have the ones in Boulder, the Stone Canyon fire south of Lyons, which had little growth overnight, and the Lakeshore fire, which popped up just about this time yesterday afternoon. 7 acres in size. They got on top of it quickly, and crews say now they're focusing on mop-up duty. And of course, down to the south, the one we were talking about, the Quarry fire, that's where Kyle and Lauren were giving us the very latest. As far as the Stone Canyon fire, again, little growth overnight, and they do now have 20% containment. The fire over 1,500 acres in size. Boulder County putting in stage 2 fire restrictions today. Some good news there is a couple of neighborhoods were given the all clear. The Steamboat Valley and Stone Canyon neighborhoods were given the all clear as far as those evacuation orders. And the Lakeshore fire that we watched get going yesterday on live television north of Gross Reservoir. Again, 7 acres in size. You can see some of the slurry that came down on that fire quickly to draw some lines. They say that fire was human caused, but the Boulder County Sheriff's at this point saying it was accidental. There was, of course, that home. We did see one structure damaged. Evacuation orders and road closures were lifted overnight.
Denver once again has the worst air quality in the nation. That mixed with hot temperatures is really making it tough on firefighters and anybody that's outside. We know several firefighters were treated for heat exhaustion as well yesterday, understandable. Early this morning, Denver's air quality index was the 11th worst in the world. That's improved a little bit, but it's tough to be outside. An air quality alert is in effect until 4 o'clock.
So let's see how the weather is impacting things with our weather impact meteorologist, Lauren Robinson. Lauren?
Yeah, today we've called another weather impact day due to all of the wildfire smoke in the area. Now, this is going to be due to both wildfire smoke from fires here locally that we've been reporting on, but we're also getting smoke from wildfires in neighboring states. So we're going to continue to monitor all of this as we make our way through the next few days. Now, to the south, we do have some scattered showers and storms. A severe thunderstorm warning has just popped up just south of Colorado City. These areas seeing storms to the south, we're looking for the possibility for some heavy downpours. We're also looking for maybe some small to moderate sized hail, gusting winds, lightning and thunder. Now, none of that rain is falling where we need it along this line of wildfires along the Front Range this afternoon, but we're going to continue to monitor that. Again, what that is really causing is going to be, of course, anyone impacted that lives near these areas that have been evacuated, but we do have secondary impacts all across the Front Range and Eastern Plains, and most of that is due to the wildfire smoke out there. You can see from my smoke forecast here, of course, we're going to see the most smoke where we have the local fires, but other areas across the Front Range and Eastern Plains still monitoring more wildfire smoke from neighboring states. Now, a little bit of good news is overnight tonight and into early tomorrow, we get a lift in some of this wildfire smoke. Only far northern counties will be seeing it before it starts to drop its way southward again across central portions of the Eastern Plains. So we get a little bit of clearing early tomorrow, but as we go into our Friday, we're going to continue to monitor our poor air quality. So because of this, we do still have air quality alerts in effect across the urban corridor for a mix of high levels of ozone and wildfire smoke. So as we've been saying all week, if you're someone with asthma or any other respiratory sensitivities, you might need to limit your time outdoors. Right now, we have a live look over downtown Denver behind this graphic, and you can just see all of that haze lingering around. Still pretty hot, 98 degrees right now at DIA day with winds coming in from the east-southeast at around 10 miles per hour. Now, as we monitor our futurecast, outside of those fires, we are still looking for some showers and storms later this afternoon into this evening. Now, the not so good news is it's not likely to fall where we're seeing the fires. We're expecting most of these storms across southern and southeastern corners of the state, barely brushing into the southeastern corner of the Denver metro area before falling back out late tonight. Tomorrow morning, we wake up to more sunshine. This is where we could maybe see an isolated shower or storm above some of these fire areas, but right now it's looking like most of these storms are going to fall east of I-25 corridor, and they're really going to expand as they make their way across the plains and move their way out late Saturday night. So as we take a zoomed in look here through our futurecast across the Front Range, later this evening, we're looking for some storms to start to pop up across southeastern portions of the Denver metro area. Those quickly move out by late tonight. Tomorrow, we start the day with quite a bit of sunshine, and we are looking for some of these storms to pass through southern portions of the Denver metro area and then again northern portions before moving their way eastward. And a lot of the fire areas are looking to stay dry over the next few days, unfortunately. As far as severe weather is concerned, today, the southeastern corner of the state where we're expecting the strongest storms, we have a marginal risk for severe weather here. And then tomorrow, that marginal risk moves its way across the eastern plains. Both days, our biggest impacts are going to be locally heavy downpours. We're looking for some gusting winds, maybe some small to moderate sized hail, lots of lightning and thunder. Overnight tonight, temperatures stay pretty mild, 60s for most of us across the Front Range and eastern plains, 40s and 50s in the high country, low 70s out west. Tomorrow, temperatures drop just a tad in some areas. I think Denver drops into the middle 90s as opposed to the upper 90s that we're seeing today. So we're still going to be pretty hot out there, even the high country in the 80s. We zoom into our Front Range forecast highs for tomorrow, middle to upper 90s across the northern portions of the Front Range and eastern plains, 70s and 80s up in the high country. The next few days, we're going to continue to see this warm weather stick around before more storm and shower chances move in and those temperatures slowly start to drop. So we're in the middle 90s Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to be pretty dry with some isolated storm chances here and there through the weekend. But the good news is as we start next week, we're going to see more widespread showers and storms, temperatures slowly dropping each day.
As information continues to develop on these wildfires, we want you to know you can text the word wildfires to 303-871-1491. We'll text you back a link to all of our wildfire coverage because there's a lot changing hour by hour.
Of course, we're going to have much more on that coming up when we go over to Channel 9 at 5 o'clock. So we want to see over there with the very latest on those wildfires.
We also are following some breaking news. Aside from the wildfires, multiple people hurt after a shooting in Aurora. What we know is this happened around 3 o'clock in the area of Colfax and Jamaica. Aurora police confirmed 4 adults were shot, 3 of them taken to the hospital. 1 person died at the scene. They're working to develop more information about a possible suspect. At this point, no one has been arrested. We're going to learn more. We'll bring it to you, we hope to, at 5 o'clock for sure, the latest information on that story as well. We'll be bringing you all the updates on Channel 9 at 5 o'clock.
That's going to wrap it up for us now. We're going to return you to regular programming.